What's up? What's up? What's up? That's right. We're back with more Zettelkasten. Still on the same paper that I was Zettelkastening, but let me just shift my camera. Awesome. Um, Before we start though, I just want to say something. As I'm making videos, right? I'm making videos, and I've been making videos. Oh my god, for a few days, maybe a week now. I've actually lost track of the time, but I don't just do YouTube because, like, for the sake of recording videos. Like, I do actually want to make content. I mean, this channel is just like an account to just post stuff. I just post stuff, like, the sake of archival, really, if anything. And then I want to one day turn these videos on this channel into main channel videos. You know, the KojoBailey channel. Um, so I was just thinking I should really improve. Like, I will still seek to improve the video quality. Is what I'm saying. Like, I watched a Ken video yesterday. I mean, I talked about it. I mean, I think I still have it open, right? I closed it. Okay, awesome. I think why did I close it? Oh, because I saved it. That's right. But like in that video, he talks about, I don't know, like he talks about, like, genius is no, was it passion is the genesis of genius? Like he talks about that, and I was just amazed at how why is there a line of my face? Okay, and how well he articulated it. Like, it's, I mean, not surprised, but like I was really impressed. Like, it's truly impressive. Like, Ken is like genuinely a really good speaker. But it makes sense because he's been making videos for at least 3 or 4 years now. The daily uploads where he just talks to the camera while playing Clash. So he's gotten very good at it. But I mean, I think he was also just good at it already from previous experience doing videos even, and who knows what else before that. But yeah, it's definitely very cool. So I'm gonna try to also consciously improve my own presentation skills in these videos. And two things I want to do is, well, a few things, more than two. One, stop stuttering. Oh my days, I need to stop stuttering, dude. Like, this is a thing I have just in general. Like, even in real life, where I just stutter. If I can not stutter, that'd be great. Maybe I need to talk slower in that case to stutter less. Two is slurring. I mean, to be fair, it doesn't help that I'm congested like 24/7. I generally need to see a doctor about that. But that means that I end up slurring my words sometimes, and it can be hard to articulate properly. So, although I can generally understand what I'm saying, it may be harder for other people to. I mean, to be honest, people do actually understand what I'm saying a lot of the time, but I even feel like I don't. But maybe that's because also, like, because I'm congested, I don't hear myself as well. I don't know, but I do think that can be improved. And also filler words like if I just talk without the filler words, that would probably be better. And also, I kind of, one thing I do quite often as well is I start a lot I start a lot of sentences, take like a pause like that, think about what I want to say next, and then continue. Which isn't, like, it's better than using filler words to just fill the void, but it does also make it kind of hard to listen to what I'm saying, and it's also quite annoying for editing because, like, I will say a sentence, and there'll be like 5 pauses mid sentence, just right like that, and that's not good. It's because it just makes it harder to follow my words. If I can think about my thought first and then just say the sentence in one go, that's better for editing, and it's also just better for people listening because they don't have to, like, listen to this constant string of words that are separated by gaps, but the gaps don't separate thoughts. They more just separate randomly. You know what I mean? Like, it's different if I say, "So, chat, today we're making a video, and the video is going to be about a thing I wanted to make for a long time. Zettelkasten note taking." Like, that's fine because, like, it's like separating my thoughts. But if I just say, "So, chat, um, today we're making a video, and it's about like, so, like, that's terrible. That's terrible." So yeah, we'll see about that. Also, like, things like "so yeah," I do have a habit of starting sentences and not finishing them as well, which is not so good. Like, it's fine if I start a sentence and realize there's a better way I want to say something and articulate something, but if I am saying But if I am starting a sentence and then needing to rephrase the whole thing, I should just stop and then, you know what? And you know what else? It doesn't help that I lose my train of thought mid-sentence, usually because I get distracted, um, which sucks. Like I will start talking and then get distracted by the fact that I am talking. And I don't know if if it's like an ADHD thing. I don't know, but it's really quite problematic if I want to just speak coherently in one go. Because if I'm saying a sentence and I can't even finish my thought because I get distracted from what my thought was, what my point was, that's really difficult. Anyway, so these are things these are things I will try to keep in mind going forward. And I think the first thing to do is just to talk a bit slower. Because if I talk slower, it means that I can stutter less because I'm not stumbling over my words. It means I can articulate more easily because obviously I'm talking less quickly. And it also gives me more time mid-sentence to think about what it gives me more time mid-sentence to think about how I want to finish my thoughts. So my main strategies, because obviously I can just point out these flaws I want to fix, but my main strategies going forward will be: one, speak a bit slower, and two, if I do fumble, if I do fumble a sentence mid-sentence, okay, rather, if I am creating a sentence, do not stop until I finish the thought. And therefore, if I find the thought doesn't quite go in the way I want it to, stop, restart, and say the whole sentence again. Because I've noticed when I'm editing, I will be saying a sentence, and again, I take the pauses, or I will maybe I don't pause, or like maybe I mess up a thought that I was trying to articulate, and then I kind of just stop for a second, and then continue as if like yeah, and then I just continue the sentence. Which means I have like the first part of the sentence where like it's kind of broken, and then I just continue with the second part of the sentence, and that's not great because like it's not great because if you were to splice those together then in editing, it's really awkward because I need to like cut out the part where I messed up and like splice it onto like the earlier part of the sentence, but the earlier sentence may not even like be that well articulated anyway. So like it's just not good. So those are the two things I want to do. So with that in mind, let us continue with the Zettelkasten. I mean, what I just said is not particularly related to Zettelkasten in particular. It's just something I want to do for recording. So my goal for this recording is to literally finish with this so I can move on to note-taking other things. And I said before, I think that the reason that I am taking so long to finish this is because it's so information dense. I mean, this was written by Bjorn Strostrup, and I know from experience that, yeah, this was written by Bjorn Strostrup, and I know from experience, reading some of his other things, that he really does tend to just pack so much information. And so, not not necessarily information, but so much insight into such small. Yeah, he tends to pack so much. He tends to pack so much insight into small paragraphs, which is cool. I mean, you can see here that like none of his paragraphs are particularly super long. Like he does break them up quite well, but I'm seeing. I mean, just look at how many highlights you have over here, right? It's quite incredible. Anyway, enough yapping about the metas. Let's get into it. So I believe, well, I can check Obsidian to see when was the last location. Yeah. So here's a note over here. We can see that the last thing that we noted was this quote here, coding guidelines, blah blah blah, and that is here. Cool. I assume, yeah, I did take notes on this already. So let's move on to the next one, which is this. Implementation experience is usually beneficial for improving a design. And I was saying that it's also good for planning a design in its initial stages. I.e., if you know which abstractions to start with, it's better than just jumping in with no goal. Okay, I don't know if there's I don't know if there's a new thought there. By new, I mean something I haven't already written. But since we're porting our notes, let's just go ahead and write this anyway. The point of the point of writing the notes here in this sources is not, yeah, like, just to clarify, this sources thing I have in my Obsidian is not part of the Zettelkasten. I can link to it, but I just treat it as if I were linking to any other source. For example, I could link to a source note. So here you can see I link to a source note here in my references, but I could also just have a video link with a timestamp, and that would be a perfectly valid reference link as well. So rather, this is just a way for me to, I mean, in this case specifically, having a note like this in my source notes is just a way for me to more easily refer to my notes. Because if I were to like link to the PDF with my notes in it, like where would I host that PDF? I could upload it directly to Obsidian, but then with the syncing on the plan, that could take up a lot of storage space. Not to mention, like if I'm trying to if I'm trying to annotate a book, I can't just upload the PDF of the book. I need to have some way of tracking specific excerpts, right? So that's why. So like this part here where I'm highlighting, then copy and pasting it into Obsidian, copy pasting this into Obsidian. This is not part of the Zettelkasten. This is just general source setting up note taking, right? Um, and I think it's important to make that. And I think it's important to make that distinction. So, I would say that implementation experience is also good for planning a design in its initial stages. That is, knowing which abstractions to start with as opposed to just jumping straight in with no concrete goal or method. So I guess what I'm trying to say is having an abstraction in mind to begin with is better than jumping in with none. Okay, that's not really a thought though. Or like it's not a particularly interesting one. Or like one I need to note down. I mean, we're talking about implementation experience. So it's more that knowing how to implement something helps with having that because it means that knowing how to implement something what? It means that knowing how to implement something also means that you can abstract or like apply the abstraction more easily. But that's not really what I'm saying. I mean, what Bjorn said is that implementation experience is good for improving a design. What I was saying that is also good for starting with a design. Um, yeah, but I don't like. I guess the main takeaway there is if you have experience in literally anything, then obviously being able to do it the next time, if even if you're starting from scratch, is a lot easier. But that's like such a nothing burger statement. So okay, in that case, we're just going to ignore this. I am going to leave it inside my notes here because once again, this isn't part of my Zettelkasten, right? I'm just linking to it from my Zettelkasten. I don't know if this in particular will be useful. I don't know if this in particular may be useful to me in the future. This is just me writing my notes in general, like actual literature notes. So those are just there. I'll leave it there, even though I won't link to it, because what may seem useless now may be useful later. It may even be useful in me just wanting to reflect on my. It may even be useful for me just wanting to reflect on my thought processes at the time, right? Future me looking at past me. So let's just move on. Early experience reports must be taken with a grain of salt. So these are for test groups, right? So let's go ahead and copy that. You'll notice that I'm using quite a formal way of, I mean, not like, whoops, like not, like this isn't super formal, but it is like a formal. You will notice that I'm using the formal way of quoting, by the way, like I'm putting these in brackets with dot 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 to show that it's coming from the middle of a sentence. I just think that's helps with understanding. I mean, like, there's a reason we adopted these conventions in the first place, which is that it's just useful for understanding. So, um, copy this. Yep, because test groups are highly unlikely to be an accurate representation of the massive target population. I really want, yeah. I guess this is a note in of itself. It's something that I've known for a long time, but okay. So let's make a note from this. Um, especially at okay, test groups test groups are unlikely to be, or rather, test groups that sample a larger population are unlikely to be accurate are unlikely to accurately represent the said larger population. The thing is, from psychology, well, from studying psychology in school, I learned that there are definitely methods for making sure or at least increasing the likelihood of your samples group being more representative of the target population. So honestly, I'm gonna not make this note. I've now decided that you know, after writing it, I've now, after writing it out here, I've now decided that, I think there are, I think there are better things to be said about sampling. And this is kind of, again, a nothing burger statement. Rather, if I ever come back to studying psychology, or really just methods of like scientific sampling, whatever, then those will give me better notes to take about sampling. And this is just not one of those notes. Okay, then, so, I mean, no harm done. I've just tried it. I really wonder what systems exist for developers to go about deciding when to take certain feedback into account. An example is Valve and how they value playtester feedback, but don't just implement it all. Yeah, this I watched a video about Valve and how they handle user feedback. This is a wondering, so I don't really have much to say from it as a thought per se. At least I don't think I should add thoughts and questions. I mean, at least I don't think I should. At least I don't think I should add questions to my Zettelkasten. Like, how would that even look? I wonder what systems developers use for feedback. Like that's not really a Zettelkasten. That's more an area for research. So if I ever come back to, again, like with the sampling size stuff, if I ever come back to researching this particular subject, if I ever come back to researching like with sample sizes this particular subject, then I'll be able to make better notes on that, more informed notes, as opposed to just asking a question. So I think I should have a system as well where I kind of just track questions. And what I actually do. I have this note here called things to research. I actually have it pinned usually, so I think I'm going to pin it again here. Like so. Whoops, it pinned here, not there. I wanted to pin like in my actual bar over here, like this. Yeah, and then reorder it. The issue is I can't like control tab as easily, but to be fair, I can just click as well. So yeah, it should be fine. So what is topology? Good question. Um, so literally I can just copy paste this, right? I wonder what systems exist for developers to go about deciding when to take certain feedback into account. So what systems do developers employ to to when deciding which user feedback is worth actually implementing? Yeah, okay. So again, nothing to take from that one, but I did get a question. Ooh, should I also link back to where this question came from? Nah, no point. No real reason to do so. Like, I could create like I don't know, like an Inquisitor's Zettelkasten. I could create an Inquisitor's Zettelkasten where instead of atoms, you have questions, and it's a very similar style, just that instead of thoughts, they're questions. I don't know if that's useful though. No, whatever. Pure sales jobs are not intellectually honest. Yeah, this was very cool. Not the kind of quote you would expect to find in a paper about C++, but he's literally what's the word? He's literally criticizing this idea of, again, pure sales jobs and like how they lie to your face about products and stuff. What's the context of this? We should never present a design without a serious and honest discussion of possible problems. Yeah, like actual pros and cons. So cool, Rev. So cool that has C++ somehow relates to this. Capitalism definitely encourages selling people products dishonestly. Evil companies literally try to make their customers less intelligent and less capable of critical thought so that they can more easily be sold stuff. Try and tell me this is not destructive to society. All right, past me. Um, right. So this is a thought here. Capitalism encourages people selling stuff dishonestly. Evil companies try to make their customers less intelligent and less capable of critical thought. Yeah, this is an observation that I made, which is that literally with stuff like Instagram and Netflix and whatever, like they design their systems in such a way that they expect you to be dumb. Like auto scrolling, for instance, on Instagram is to take away your agency. So you just become this so that you just become this shell of a human that just has stuff fed to you, right? Literally spoon fed to you. So yeah, that is another thought, I guess. And then tell me this is not destructive to society. So capitalism, therefore, capitalism is destructive to society. Um, all right. I sense a tangent here, so let's see what we can get from this. So the first one is that capitalism encourages. I mean, to be fair, I don't formally understand capitalism anyway. I haven't studied too deeply what capitalism actually is at its core. All I know is what I'm seeing now from this capitalist society. Because my basic idea of capitalism is that it's about competition, right? You have independence parties competing with each other, and their goal is to just beat each other in competition. And then the idea is that this would give way to innovation because people want to innovate to because companies uh, because parties will want to innovate in order to take over the competition. But then you also have issues like but then you have issues where, since money is the reward, maximizing profits isn't necessarily maximizing the interest of the population. So, because capitalism, because okay, so because capitalism in our society has money as a goal, right? Like as okay, because capitalism. So because our capitalist society has money and profits as the thing independent parties are competing for, the the interests of the interests of the people in that society are not necessarily the interests of the people in that society do not necessarily align with the interests of the companies of these companies. I'll change independent parties to companies, which is a thought right there, right? So therefore, it encourages selling people products dishonestly. So now that's a different thought. So a title for this would be "Our Capitalist Society favors profits over people. Prioritizes. And then topics to here would be economics, right? Economics, capitalism. Yep. And the reference would be this note here. So how can you be so certain? And what do we got here? Pure sales jobs. Pure sales jobs. There we go. Okay, and from this I can derive a new thought. So because our capitalist, so our capitalist society, because our capitalist society rewards has profits as a goal, has monetary or economic even, but like has profits as a goal as opposed to the welfare of people, right? Like usually that's more left to um usually that's usually welfare is more left to the government to sort out, whereas the people inside the society focus on profits. So then you don't have this like so then like you have this so then you have this disconnect between the government is meant to help the people, but the people aren't helping themselves. So because of this, um, merchants are encouraged to be dishonest about their products, lying, hiding cons, or like hiding the cons of their hiding its cons, right? Like hiding or withholding information, like not communicating information, important information, not communicating information that would be important the buyers, to the buyer, or to the what's the word? Someone who buys stuff, the consumer. That would be important to the consumer for decision making, and or straight up lying, and or straight up being dishonest. Dishonest about the pros and cons, right? Yeah. And then this actually this gives okay, and this gives me another thought as well, which is that um no, I forgot what it was. Oh yeah, like because of this, companies are incentivized to just in general make the decision making of their customers worse. So I think that was the point I was going to make anyway. But this also comes from the same source, same reference, whatever. And topics are once again capitalism and decision making. I could say economics, but not really in this case. Even like morality, ethics, more what the hell, more okay, morality. Yeah. So capitalism encourages dishonest marketing, merchancy. I don't know. All right. then once again, evil companies literally try to make their customers less intelligent and less capable of critical thought so that they can be more easily sold stuff. Yeah. So because capitalism encourages dishonesty, capitalism encourages dishonest marketing from merchants. It is actually um, it is actually a genuine, yeah, it is a genuine strategy. It is there is incentive. There is strategic incentive, I should say. There is strategic incentive to there is strategic incentive for companies to try to dull the decision making of their customers. Um, since if consumers have weak decision making skills, they are unable to as they are unable to they are unable to effectively evaluate the pros and cons of a product, and the merchants can get away with more exploitative products, and merchants and yeah, and the merchants can get away with just worse quality products. Weak estimating skills. They're unable to effectively evaluate the pros and cons of a product, and the merchants could get away with worse quality producting. What? Um, with selling and profiting from worse quality products or produce or products. Yeah, awesome. And once again, same reference here. Topics: capitalism and morality, and decision making. Pretty cool. So capitalism encourages no. Capitalism encourages companies in yeah, capitalism encourages companies to dull not dull. I mean, like it's a word, but it's not quite what I'm looking for. Dull synonyms as a verb: diminish, reduce decision making, depress, blunt, soothe. What's a verb? Make dull or less intense. To dim, yeah, numb, drug, tranquilize, obscure, shadow, fog, be dim, suppress, smother, damn, lower, crush. Um, to crush decision making, to suppress decision making, to weaken, right? To weaken synonyms. Incapacitate, exhaust, wear out, wither, depletes. Interesting. We don't really have good words for this, do we? Like I was thinking undermine, but none of these are quite what I'm thinking of. Undermine is erode, lessen the effectiveness. But undermine sounds a bit like underestimate. Um, Like, don't undermine my thinking. Like when people say that, they usually mean underestimate. But quick comment is to weaken decision making, to weaken their, to weaken consumer decision making skills. And for example, social media platforms like literally Instagram, literally try to take away user agency by having people doom scroll through an algorithm. Through videos, through content chosen by an algorithm, rather than encouraging them to search for content on their own. People complain. People have complained about this on YouTube as well for years. Instagram even recently added an auto scroll feature. And in my experience, the search feature on Instagram genuinely sucks. And I struggle to ever find a particular video that I'm looking for when I use Instagram search. Like generally, it's horrendous, horrendous. Instagram, genuinely. Doom scroll is a word. Yeah, awesome. All that from Bjorn Structure's paper on C++ and certainty. Crazy. Right. And then my final point was this is destructive to society. So I guess capitalism. Okay, so because capitalism encourages dishonest argument, uh, yeah, because capitalism encourages dishonest marketing. So I say encourages, incentivizes, incentivizes. How do I spell that? Incentiveness. What? Incentivize. Incentive. Incentivize. That's a word, bro. Incentivizes is a verb. I swear to God. How was my dictionary so bad, bro? On my computer. Incentivize. It's a word. Okay. Is it like it's not even an American spelling thing? No, it is. Yeah, are we dead ass? It's so annoying, bro. My system should be in the UK. Okay, ridiculous. Um. Okay, so because blah 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 and incentivizes companies to find ways to weaken the decision making skills of their consumers. It can be said, I would argue that because this is personal. These are my thoughts. I would argue that capitalism, a capitalist society where the reward slash yeah where the reward is money is low key is doomed. I'd say is doomed to spawn. Well, no, is okay. is destructive to itself, is destructive to itself and unsustainable because humans, well, unless humans are educated, to be fair. And unsustainable unless these unless these unless the population, unless the consumers are able to be less susceptible. Well, not even. It's dissociative self and unsustainable since it's hard to even educate consumers to. Yeah, it's hard to even educate consumers to be more skeptical of products when their very news feed is in of itself run by a capitalist company or run by a company that also functions under capitalism, whether it be CNN, BBC, the BBC, or even social media platforms like Instagram and TikTok, which have been becoming more which have been becoming more common. Yeah, like I've heard that nowadays. Well, I keep seeing news posts about how social media platforms are more and more. Okay, um, yeah, sorry. I keep seeing news posts about how more and more teenagers are actually relying on Instagram and TikTok for news. I personally use ground news. Uh, I personally use ground news, but I also find I, but I also find, but I also find out a lot of my news from Instagram, just from scrolling through Instagram, and also through like YouTube. Sometimes I'll see videos like that, or if a creator I watch, or like if a content creator I watch has made if a content creator I watch has made a video about a certain topic, then I will of course find out about it through them as well. Um, but yeah, it's never the government who's like revealing news. Not that it should be, but like I'm just saying. Okay, so our capitalist society is self-destructive. Nice, and this actually draws off of two previous points. I mean, this one also draws off of this one, but the cool thing about atom the cool thing oh my god the cool thing about things being atomic is that something that draws off something else can also be combined with this root to create something more. Um, like to give an example from chemistry, I can take I can take oxygen and combine it with carbon to get carbon. I can take oxygen and combine it with carbon to get carbon monoxide. But then I can take another atom of oxygen, combine it with the now derived carbon monoxide, and what do I get? Carbon dioxide, right? So like, is that kind of idea? But this does actually use the same reference, so I'll put it there. And topics are again capitalism and society, but like social systems. So I'm actually going to tag this one as systems. Um, yeah, like economics systems, but still systems, like society on a scale. Maybe I need a society tag. I don't know, but that's interesting. Yeah, because like now I got systems relating to this here, which points to capitalism. So now these are all connected. Truth has still not made its way into there yet. Okay, cool. So that was like what, like 4 notes in one go, you could say. All right. Continue. We should always be more careful considering related literature. Um, yeah, this one was also quite interesting. So let's copy this. Boom, boom, bam. Okay. Interesting how there's a similar idea in politics, i.e., journalists and opinion articles. Yet there is a culture in academia to evaluate different sources, whereas people reading the news tend to just stick to one source. The thing is, in academia, when people read research papers, I think they do usually just refer to one source. The only time you don't refer to one source is when you are writing your own source. But otherwise, people do tend to just follow one idea or like one source, regardless of whether it's news or I mean, because research papers or academic papers are a form of news because they could reveal something interesting about the world, right? Opinion articles that are strategic will reference academic research as evidence of their claims, although there is less of a culture of accountability to stop them from biasing towards one source. And to be fair, academia does suffer from the same issue, but people just call it out more. Yeah, and that's no coincidence. I mean, just people in academia tend to be just trained to be better evaluators and critical thinkers. So it's not really surprising that they would call out biased writing more than, I don't know, just like the average person watching the news, right? Because they may not be as educated in that particular domain. Of course, if everyone in school everywhere learned to be skeptical and like evaluate things properly, then I think society would thrive a lot better. And that's a thought there, to be honest. But I won't make it yet because I think I can do deeper research to that to get more concrete thoughts from that, right? Anyway, yeah, whatever. Not too important. So, well, what's my thought here then? That like people in academia are just better critical thinkers? Hmm. I don't know. I'm gonna leave that one for a future. Yeah, I'm gonna leave that one, and once again, just trust that if it's so important, it will come up again later in some other text that I am looking through. Crowds don't have taste. Yeah, my question was, what is taste? But whatever. It is hard to be patient with people for whom it is all new. And this was interesting. Yeah, and my thinking was it's hard to be patient when we are introducing the same thing that we already know to someone new, not necessarily because we struggle to explain it. I think the Feynman technique is great. Well, I mean, it seems great to me. I haven't really done like proper research into whether it actually is effective, but my assumption is that it is. And I should probably make a note about that actually, about the Feynman technique. But I'll probably do more research on that by itself later anyway. So I'll kind of just I'll leave it for now and just kind of prime it in my brain. But like if you already understand a topic well enough, like you genuinely understand it, but then you have like 100 people you need to explain it to, you're not really learning more about the topic from doing that. Like you kind of reach the limit of how much you can understand from teaching it, so it just becomes tedious. Like obviously, obviously it's nice to help people, by teaching them things, but you definitely start to think about whether there are more efficient ways to teach it. And that's where asynchronous resources can come in, right? Asynchronous learning, asynchronous teaching. Um, so a solution to this is to exist as guidance, right? It's like as a person, be a guide, but and primarily refer people to resources they can access in their own time without human intervention, and likewise focus more of our own efforts in producing those resources, right? So instead of becoming a teacher, become someone who produces content that people can access. Like if I ever became a teacher, I would definitely use my role as a teacher as a catalyst for me to better understand the things I'm teaching, the topics I'm teaching, and then produce content about them, like on YouTube or something, right? So then I can not only so then by teaching students, I'm improving my I'm yeah. So then by teaching students, I'm improving. So then by teaching students, I'm improving my own understanding of the topic via the Feynman technique, but um, and then I'm using that to produce educational content, which is good. That also means that if I were ever a teacher, it would not like if I were that also means that if I were ever a teacher, I would not teach the same thing repeatedly for like well my entire career. I would definitely want to be jumping around to different subjects so then I can improve my understandings through teaching. Um, and some may and like I guess like my fear is that that can be viewed as selfish because like I'm only teaching people to learn myself, but no, like I'm learning myself so I can create resources which students around the world will be able to access in their own time, right? So if anything, it's just the better way of this. Like really is what teachers should be doing in general because then they can teach the most people, um, while also improving their own understanding, right? So educators can employ educators can benefit from the Feynman technique. So educators can benefit from the Feynman technique. I don't know how you spell Richard Feynman actually. Feynman technique, right? Yeah. Feynman technique to teach to improve their own understanding or understanding of a topic by teaching it to others. By teaching it to others who are not experts in the field already, who are not already experts in the field, but then use that improved understanding to create asynchronous resources that people, a lot more people can access and learn from. Obviously, the digital age makes this much more feasible since educators can post online resources, can post learning resources online for students and the like to study in their own time, to study and explore in their own time. So this is another note, by the way, the Figma technique, but then use that improved understanding to create synchronous resources. So educators should educators should create asynchronous resources. Um, that's not really phrased correctly. Educators should guide uh, students to I mean, my main point was that educators should be guides, not banks of knowledge. Because we ourselves are not guaranteed to be perfect banks of knowledge. Like we can have flaws in our own understandings. Um, but also like we can just forget things, right? Um, and if you create resources, then people can collaborate on that and improve it. So there's actually a lot to be said there. Um, yeah, there's actually a lot to be said there about asynchronous resources in general, but Educators should focus more on creating asynchronous resources. Yeah, in their own time. Focusing on this instead of just teaching would ultimately help educate many more people, which is generally a desirable goal. Um, so topics here are education, yeah, society, I guess. I mean, everything is related to society, really. At the end of the day. So, um, okay. So explaining what we think we understand or might understand to others who are not experts. Hmm. Getting ourselves to explain a topic we are trying to better understand to someone who is not an expert about that topic, who is not already particularly, not even experts, particularly knowledgeable about that topic. I can't spell. In a simple manner that they can understand is a great way to expose our own gaps in understanding and ultimately improve and solidify them. Them as in our understandings. Yeah. This is referred this is commonly referred to as the Feynman technique from Richard Feynman or Feynman, whatever. So again, education, and I think communication as well, because this says something about like how we as a society actually benefit from communicating. Because if you want to understand something, the fact that you explain it, the fact that you the fact that you trying to explain it to someone else literally helps you just goes to show how important collaboration and communication are. Yep. So breaking, communicating our understandings simply in a simple manner helps improve our own understandings. Helps improve our understandings. Communicating our understandings in a simple manner to others helps improve them for ourselves. I'll just do it. I'll change the wording here from this to plural to singular, just so it's more clear what it refers to. I really wish English had I really wish English had a better way to like just concisely better refer to yeah. I wish English had a better way to more concisely refer to this kind of situation where you have two different things, but they both have the same pronoun. Like he and she become useful if you're talking about a boy and a girl. But if you have two boys and you say he, you can't really. It's a lot harder to infer who you're talking about, and that's where names come in, right? Or in this case, if I have like understandings and others as both plural, then the correct pronoun is them. But then like which one am I referring to when I say them? So in that case, having more pronouns for more specific cases can be useful. Um, but of course, there are limits to it, and maybe there's an then because there are limits to that system, this system, maybe there's another system for it that would be quite effective. I don't know. I'm very curious. So that's this, and then I can link to that here. So communicating, sorry. Yeah. And the reference here was this, right? What what even was the context of this? It is hard to be patient for whom it is all new. So how can you be so certain it is patient? There you go. Yeah, I didn't actually make the actual notes, the other one, which is that we get bored of trying to explain the same things over and over. Like, and I this is like this is important because I notice on Discord, for instance, um, I'm in a lot of servers, like over 100, for lots of different topics, and a lot of these are in, like a lot of these servers I'm in are focused on teaching things. So I'm in the C++ server. I'm in like language servers, like learning Spanish. Um, I'm in the JoJo's. Well, I'm an admin of the JoJo's Bizarre Learning community, which of course is like modding resources and stuff. And I find that yeah, like people can get quite impatient with newbies if the newbies aren't because like if you already understand something pretty damn well, and then you need to explain it to like people every single day who come into the channel, and like you wish you could just say, bro, just read them, like just whatever, like just read this thing, read our resource guide, like it tells you like bro, like people have asked this question 100 times. Like just do a search just do a search in our forum, and then like you can find someone else who's already asked this question. Like people don't want to have to re-explain things that they've already explained. And like often that like is expressed as like kind of anger of like, dude, like why can't you just read? Or like why can't you just do it yourself? But like it's not their fault. Like if they don't know about these things, or like even like how to find them in the first place, or maybe like the search functionality on like I mean for Discord forums, for example, the search functionality is pretty bad. Like it like on Discord posts, for example, the search functionality is pretty damn bad if you want to try to find a specific topic. Like tags can help with it, but ultimately there aren't that great of tools for finding what you need to find. Um, but yeah, like it's not the newcomer's fault per se that they don't know enough. It's just that a good system would mean they wouldn't even need to ask you in the first place, which is why I care so much about creating good systems. So, what is the note to take away there? I guess a good system can take pressure off of people to just repeat the same things, right? or like automation is a useful tool in education because it means that people can focus on not just repeating the same things over and over. But like that's what automation is in general. So I don't I don't think that's particularly revolutionary. Is it's applying it to education that's more revolutionary. But I think these already yeah I think this note already kind of says that, right? Educators should focus more on creating asynchronous resources. I think that's been accomplished encompassed. All right, are we still in the same? Okay, so now we're in motivation. No, we're not. Now we're in how can you be so certain? Right. So this is actually a new topic here. How what's it called? How can you be so certain? You as in Bjorn himself, the author. Is that how I'm doing this? Yeah. There's a lot here, isn't there? Okay, I consider concepts a necessary completion of the design of templates and an essential part of the support of generic programming. I wonder if this I wonder if this is why people have taken issue with the idea of C++ templates for so long, and whether perspectives will shift as concepts become more mainstream. Yeah, this is more pink, a pinkish note than a yellow note, because it's not really a thought there; it's just a question. But yeah, I was wondering, people don't aren't too fond of C++ templates, and considering that concepts only came in C++ 20, but like they were literally planned from the very beginning as something that would complete templates, according to Bjorn, then maybe that's why people haven't liked it. Like they've maybe templates have just been missing an essential component. And I was making a library a while ago for C++ for binary operation stuff, like reading from binary files and writing binary data. And I made use of templates and concepts, but I was wondering how I could, because lots of people tend to want to stick to earlier, for whatever reason, many people want to stick to earlier C++ versions. So I was wondering then, like, okay, if I were to make this for C++11, what tools would I have and like how would that look? And I just found that doing it without concepts is just so much more annoying. Um, so that's paired with Endian, the Endian stuff in C++, standard Endian is only C++20, I think, as well. I just as well as like standard byte swap, I think is C++20. I just caved in and was like, screw it. I'll just make a library for C++23, a newer modern C++ because it's just not worth it. Um, yeah. So for that reason, I'm quite fond of concepts because that's literally how I was introduced to them. Concepts were this thing for templates that just seemed so trivial to me, and it was weird to me that even C++17 didn't support them. And like, so I'm quite shocked that my experience was actually quite justified because they were meant to be a necessary completion of the design of templates according to the creator of C++, right? I feel validated. I feel validated. But yeah, there's not really a note there. Um, yep. Is that it? Oh, that's it. All right. So I can finally close this. And that's it. I have created so many things in this source. I have this source has created 25 different links, which is kind of crazy. In the graph view, I don't show it, but you know what? I'm gonna add sources back to my graph view because I think that'd be cool. Also, I need them to show up in the search results. It's kind of annoying otherwise. So sources, let's add those back. Because my diary. That's why. That's why I moved it. Um, that should be okay though, right? I mean, the issue is that my diaries link to like wiki notes when they shouldn't. But oh well. I mean, like, look at this. So this one source is quite big, because I think it's just 25 different things. And topics involved in this are what? Truth, capitalism. I mean, should be everything really. But then the issue is I have okay, yeah. So I have more notes here, but then I have these blog posts which can just link to everything, and they shouldn't. I mean, if I hide existing files, sorry, non-existing files, then I get a bunch of yeah, like these are all my diary entries. So not great, honestly. I don't know. I mean, obviously I could just move my diary outside, but like they are sources. Oh my God, I feel depressed. When was this? 225. That is crazy. Oh my God, like something like this is a very big reflection, right? Um, and I could definitely use this. The thing is, though, my sources are literature notes. Like I call them sources because I was originally intending to separate literature notes and sources. But now I'm not. I might as well just call these literature notes again, or it's like something along those lines. But these aren't really notes taking. Like these are just documents, and to make notes on these, I need to kind of like it'd be really awkward. So yeah, I will actually move my diary outside. Um, and if I want to reference them, I can just reference certain lines using like normal things, I guess. Right. So anyway, that should clean up my graph view now. Oh, and I also need to add them to my list. So files and links. Do not show diary. Thank you. Try again. There we go. That's better. And then I can show existing files. Yep. Sorry, non-existent files. All right, here we go. So now actually one source has the majority of my notes, but these notes, interestingly, are not related. I mean, these are about matrices, which is fair enough. And these are about Zettelkasten, which are just like things I made at the start. So cool. Um, very cool. I can see how this will get very big very quickly. And yeah, I do wonder if I have any use for these, like my quote unquote wiki notes, which are learning resources. I might be better off just making some kind of public, because like my diary, for example, right? Like my diary is on Obsidian just because it's private, so like it's just easier to have it there. Um, but like these wiki notes, like it is useful to have information consolidated here, right? But I was thinking that in that case, I don't want to have notes that are for topics like matrices that are just for me. Like I might as well share those, right? And then again, like I can employ the Feynman technique where other people need to understand it, so that forces me to make them more understandable. So I was thinking like I could like contribute to Wikipedia, right? Instead, as a way to have my understanding, and then if I want to read yeah, like if I want to, because then like how cool is it like if you're studying for an exam, right? And then to revise, like, oh Kojo, we need to revise matrices, and you're like, oh no problem, bro. Let's just go on Wikipedia because you edited Wikipedia, so now all your understanding has been put on Wikipedia as well. So then you can just do that. Like that's pretty cool. Although Wikipedia may have like well, because of how Wikipedia is structured, you're gonna have a lot of like unrelated stuff on the page as well, which is why I envision a kind of Wikipedia that's more atomic. I think that'd be cool. Um, or I can just add atomic notes to my Zettelkasten too. Like for matrices, I can. In fact, I was thinking about this last night, if not this morning. It's kind of a blur. But I have these notes on matrices uh, in my graphy, right? But these are pretty important. So I think I might actually just create a category So how do I do this? I'll create it like this. I can't do that though. I need to create a map note. Do I even have a template for maps? Wiki templates. No, I don't have one. That's fine. Creation date doesn't matter. Topics don't matter. Actually, I could like link to bigger topics, I guess. I guess I will then. But it's not an atom. So let's move it into my maps. Um, and just link to all the things that link to it, like this. So yeah, it would have any references, but it will have topics like mathematics, right? A determinant of 0 is a flattening. A matrix multiplied by its vertex is an identity matrix. Yeah, so just simple like properties of matrices, because like these map nodes are just hub nodes, so they're just good for navigation. So properties of matrices, we have a square matrix. Okay, so like types of matrices then. The identity matrix. Whoops. The identity matrix. I can see my graph is morphing in the background. A submatrix. Right? A matrix multiplied by its inverse. It's an identity matrix. And I can like have this as like a sub thing there. Or even like the other way around. I mean, I don't want to make it too tree-like, but whatever. Submatrix moves room column, yeah. The determinant. So determinant. A determinant of 0 is a flattening. The determinant of a matrix represents a scalar for generation. Okay. Like this, right? So then if I ever need to navigate my notes on matrices, I can just look at this and like follow them. Is it just 7? No, let's get this 7. So there's one more. A negative determinant implies an orientation flip. Yeah. A negative. Yep. Maybe I could structure this a bit better, but that's fine. Creation date doesn't matter for these. So it's just the topics that matter. Cool. So now look at my graph again. Awesome. I can see I got matrix here. It's yellow. It's quite big as well. I think it got bigger because now it links out. But that's not too surprising. Yeah, so like there's an example of a hub notes right there. And then these are also hub notes. Systems is getting quite big, but like I don't make I'll just make hub notes when I feel like I want to have a easy way to navigate a particular topic. Like I don't even necessarily need to fill this because I can just see the linked mentions here, right? Like this here is good enough, but this is just useful for a bit of organization. So cool. I'm liking this a lot. I'll make a new group for the sources. And like sources are also good to have in Obsidian because sources are also good to have in Obsidian because it means that if you have a recurring source, you can just link to it, which is not only less redundant but also lets you see the connections like this, right? Path sources, and we'll make sources like blue. Maps I had yellow, but I'll make them green actually. Actually no, blue, pink, reds, green, blue, right? Reds, green, blue, or blue. What's the HSV? The HSV spectrum. Like when I look at it, it's not the same colors as RGB or HSL. Am I tripping? Like they show different colors. I might be tripping. But for some reason there are certain colors I attribute to HSL that I don't RGB. Is it this? These are like just lighter colors. I think so. So like instead of red, it's like more pinkish. Instead of blue, it's more teal, and then yellow. Yeah. Yellow, blue, yellow, teal, and pink. Which is, well, I mean, it's also here, but like it's more prominent for the HSL thing, right? Like pink for some reason just looks bigger. So let me adopt that color scheme. So pink, teal, and yellow, but like more like orangish yellow. I'm gonna go with. Cool. Yeah. Nice. Awesome. So all of these connect, and then I have this orphan here for matrices because that's a different source, and then I have this for Zettelkasten. And in fact, I will make a Zettelkasten note, hub note, just because it's quite essential. And if I ever want to explain a Zettelkasten, I can just refer to this and like to someone else, right? So creation doesn't matter. Topics, models of thinking, right? In a way, and systems because it is a system. Like note taking, I guess, would make more sense. um, yep. So like the rules of a Zettelkasten. Atomic notes. Focus on one thought. And the references. Should I go triggers for thoughts or credible sources? And I mean, there's more here for sure. There's more that I can write about as Zettelkasten, but I just made these two notes because I thought they were particularly worth mentioning. Yep, so now my Zettelkasten actually links here to my systems, which means it links to everything else. That's cool. Just the matrices don't, but that's fine. I mean, how would a linear algebra and matrices link to any of this stuff so far? I guess I'll find out later. Inductive functions map every individual input to their own unique output. That's a note I need to make apparently, but I'll get back to that when I move my functions into this. But yeah, so like I wonder if I even need my wiki notes at all, or if I could just kind of convert these to the Zettelkasten system. But either way, I should be creating resources online that teach others about like complex numbers, about quaternions. If I want to, if I'm looking to revise it for like university, then that's a good way to revise it. So might as well. And then of course people will like you for it. Although that's not the goal, but I'm just saying, why not? Anyway, I finished that. So how long did that take? That was about an hour and 20 minutes. Yeah, I'll just finish off by adjusting my inbox, which really I should be taking notes from my inbox every single day and just to empty my inbox, right? So abstraction as a verbal noun, meaning to abstract from something versus an abstract idea. Abstraction to me implies deriving an abstract model from the source it's applied to. Yeah. So the note here is that abstraction is not quite the same idea as abstract as an abstract model. Because abstraction, right, is a verbal noun. Like, is that a thing? A verbal noun? Is abstraction a verbal noun? No, if I search for the definition of abstraction, the quality of dealing with ideas rather than events, freedom from representation qualities in art. The process, here you go. The process of considering something independently of its associations or attributes, or removing something from a river. Okay. But like an abstract model is a thing, abstraction is a process. So abstraction is okay because abstraction is a verbal noun that denotes a process. The implication that is given when one says abstraction as a noun is that an abstract model has been abstracted from something. So abstraction is not the same as abstraction connotates or did us connotates abstracting from something. Yeah. For example, an abstraction in programming, in software design, can only, to me, can only really be considered abstraction if it is truly abstracting from the thing that the abstraction is being applied to. Trying to apply an abstraction to something else, to something that it wasn't abstracted from, doesn't really make sense in my mind. And I prefer to distinguish that as applying an abstract model to an issue. Now, I know that, like, pedantically speaking, you can use abstraction to just mean an abstract model, but I'm saying that we should really make a distinction between the two when talking about abstractions because it just helps. Ooh. So topics abstraction, obviously, as a link. Sorry, abstraction. And models of thinking, surely. I do not mean to create that. Nice. My inbox is now empty again. So, cool. And that's where has that actually where's that landed? Abstraction here because it links to models of thinking. Yep. So that is the video. I mean, I finished. Yeah, I finished. I think that was very good. I think that's a quality Zettelkasten demonstration. So cool. And I also think I did a lot better of a job with speaking this video. I say that and then I just mess it up. Yeah. throughout the video, I was trying to be conscious of, again, like stuttering, talking too fast, slurring words, messing up sentences mid-sentence, and then just continuing. I tried to really restart. I tried to restart the sentence as opposed to just kind of, yeah. I tried to restart the sentence as opposed to just rambling on and then creating a sentence that doesn't really make sense, especially if you want to edit, the sentences together. To do so, the sentences in of themselves need to be atomic, like structurally sound in their own right. And I know this from editing experience. So, yep. Subscribe for more Zettelkastening stuff, among other things. Now that I finished this and I feel quite confident, I'm going to, really every video I make from now on, where I'm reviewing some kind of source or whatever, I'll be taking notes as I go, and then adding them to my Zettelkasten later. I may even add them to my Zettelkasten in that recording, but yeah, just so you know, going forward, I really want to integrate Zettelkasten into my life because it's a thinking partner, and thinking is very important. So subscribe for that. If you watched this far, then tell me what you think about my methods, and also tell me what you think about applying. Tell me about what you think about Zettelkasten yourself. Like, would you do it yourself? And if you were to do it, or maybe you are doing it, like, what differences would you make? Or do you think that this is actually quite solid? And how do you think it would benefit you? I'm very curious to know. So please do that, and I'll see you in the next video.